Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to What is Going Om, for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on Om Times flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandy Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandy Sedgbeer.
Hello. There's an old proverb that says every cloud has a silver lining. But when someone's life is devastated by personal tragedy, that's the last thing they want to hear. And so it was for Nancy Myers when her son Robbie unexpectedly died just 2 days before his 28th birthday. But there's another saying that miracles happen when we least expect them. And so it also was for Nancy Myers when, driven by grief and some unusual dreams, she sought answers to the unanswerable from 3 respected mediums, each of whom told her that Robbie's relationship and communication with her would continue. Robbie and Nancy had work to do together. Their mission? To provide evidence that life continues even after the body dies. And so it has. And today, Nancy Myers is living a life she could never have imagined. Nancy Myers joins me now to share an extraordinary and deeply inspiring personal story that offers evidence that even the stormiest clouds can indeed have a silver lining, often one that we would never have envisioned. Nancy Myers, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you, Sandy.
Good to have you, Nancy. Now, your life today is unlike anything you could have conceived for yourself, even, 14, 15 years ago. You're the author of 3 books. You host the Spheres of Spirit show. You're an orb photographer and a medium who works with orbs to interpret the important messages that Spirit wishes us to hear. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the beginning and tell us who you were and what your life was like before that fateful night that Robbie died.
Sure. That was in 2010 when he passed. But my life before that moment was very physical, very earthly. I was concerned with raising family. I was concerned with my career. I was concerned with my marriage. Never thinking beyond that. I felt like I was living almost in a box, never wondering what was past that wall because I didn't have to think about it. So when Robbie passed, and if I can, people say what happened. So I'll go into that a bit.
Tell us.
Robbie was, like I said, going 2 days before his 28th birthday, and he wanted to go back to North Carolina to visit his cousins. He had 3 cousins that he was very close with, but he was sick. He had a terrible cold, and, he came over to borrow a suitcase, and I said to him, I said, "Are you sure you wanna go? You sound terrible." And he said, "No, Mom, I'm gonna go. I promised the girls I was coming." Now, Robbie had just this was his first vacation. He had, gone through law school and had just worked 2 years as a prosecutor. So he'd worked really, really hard, and this was his first vacation, so he was really looking forward to it and did not want to cancel it. So I said, "Okay." So, at and let's see, what day was that? It was the, 19th. Actually, yeah, it was the 19th. I woke up from a sound sleep January 19th, 2010, and it was 12:33. And I had this foreboding feeling. You know, we all get those foreboding feelings sometimes, but I always tried to, "Oh, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine." And, but I woke up at 12:33, and there were chills. The air was cold. I had chills, and I thought, "What's going on?" But I talked myself out of it, of course. I said, "You know what? He's sound asleep. It's 3:33 back there, in North Carolina. He's tucked into bed. He's fine. Nancy, go back to sleep." But at about 6 o'clock in the morning, I could hear the phone ringing. Now I sleep with earplugs, so I could kind of hear the phone ringing. And, I thought, "Oh, I'm too tired. You know, maybe it's a robocall or something." So I ignored it for a while. Well, finally, I said, "No, something's wrong." And I didn't want to get out of bed because I knew somehow on some level, Sandy, that my life was about to change. And so, literally trembling, I went to the phone. My hand trembled. I picked it up and I said to my sister-in-law, "Are you trying to get a hold of me?" Because she was on the other line. And she said, "Nancy, Robbie's gone." And I said, still trembling, I said, "Gone? Where did he go?" And then she just blurted out, "He died." And then after that, everything just went white. You know, some people say black. Mine went white. My husband said I let out this blood-curdling scream. I don't even remember doing that, almost collapsing. And, and then, you know, it was, from there, fast forward a little bit, to the cause, what we found out from the autopsy, which took about 6 or 8 months, was Robbie could have had H1N1. Remember when that was going around and it was affecting people's lungs and filling up with fluid? He also was on some pain medicine for his back. He was taking probably too many over-the-counter cold medicines, and, um, so what everything was therapeutic doses. It was just the perfect storm. So, um, he literally floated out of his body. When I got the autopsy report, the coroner estimated time of death at 3:30. When I finally got his belongings back, his watch was in his backpack, and I took it out, and he somehow had stopped his watch at 3:33, the exact time that I woke up with that cold chill. And so I knew he had reached out, and that's his number to me to this day is 333. So
Mm.
that's what happened.
So, what happened when you three mediums in succession told you that, you know, Robbie had work to do with you? He was communicating. I mean, that must have been an incredible shock.
You know, it was amazing, and now I have to explain to the audience, I've always had a belief in life after life, I call it, and I always admired the mediums who could talk to those people on the other side. I believe they were talking to them. So, as a mother who lost a child, my quest was, because I wasn't there mainly, is what happened? Did he suffer? Where did he go? What's he doing? Who was he met by? You know, I didn't know the answer to any of these. I just knew somehow on some level we continued. So, probably about 6 or 8 months later, I decided to get a reading, my first ever. And I went to the medium, and she told me that she goes, "Oh, Robbie's here." I was stunned. I went, "He's here?" And she said, "Yeah, you brought him." And I'm going, "What do you mean I brought him?" She says, "Well, he's with you, not me." And that was kind of a new concept. I thought they always came to the mediums, but they come to us and hang out with their loved ones, right? And so anyway, she did some evidential mediumship. Evidential means she's going to tell me some facts to prove that, in fact, she's talking to him. And I said, yes, 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 and some things only she knew. I mean, only I knew. And she said to me, "Have you heard of orbs?" And I said, "No, not really. What are orbs?" And so she said, "Well, they're images caught on photos." And she said, "Robbie's telling me that that's your work. You and he are going to work together. You will capture orbs, and it will help heal souls, souls on his side and souls on your side." And I was just shocked, and almost pleased, because shocked that I had something to do to help people, and pleased that I was still going to have an ongoing relationship with my son. Um, this medium who gave me the reading, she has a book out, and I just love the title of it. It's called "I'm Not Dead, I'm Different." And that's what Robbie was trying to tell me. I'm not in a physical body anymore, Mom, but I'm still me. I'm still with you. I still hear you. And yes, we have work to do. And I'll tell you something, if I can talk about the dads. And this is how Robbie brought his dad on board. Now, my husband used to make fun of me. I used to sit there and watch all the shows. And in fact, he and Robbie used to stand behind me and go, "Oh, I hear could it be an S name or maybe an M name?" Or, and make fun of the mediums. But so my husband was a little, "I'm not sure I'm on board with this." And when I would tell him the communications that I received from Robbie, he was really happy that I was getting that, but he didn't believe it. Well, right after Robbie's funeral, and everybody left. It's a funny moment, when someone first passes. You have so much support. Everybody's there. There's a lot of hubbub going on. But then the last guest walks out the door shuts, and we just stood there in silence, looking at each other. And my husband just hugged me, and he said, now Robbie was an amazing drummer. And my husband said, Jim Morrison, um, who are the others? The names just went out of my head. Jimi Hendrix and the gal that sang Bobby McGee. I can't remember her name. They all died at 27. And my husband said, now they have a drummer. And when I went to a medium, the medium said, "Oh, your son has a message for your husband." This was 6 or 8 months later. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll give it to him. What does he say?" And the medium said, he wants to tell his dad that he's looking up famous dead musicians, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison. And I went, "What?" And she said, "Does that make sense to you?" And I go, "Yeah." So when I went home and told my husband that, he said, "Nancy, nobody else knew that. No one. That was between me and you." I said, "It was between me and you and Robbie. He heard you." So that opened my husband's eyes. I thought that was just a masterful stroke of, "Dad, you got to get on board with this," and from then on he has. So it helped me, because now I have the support and belief of my husband. So, when you're on this path, you have to have support. It's not always an easy path, but that's how my son brought him on board.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the orb photography. I mean, you'd never heard of orbs. I mean, were you a keen photographer?
No.
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 So how
No.
did you start?
Well, As soon as I got that message, I had this little cheap um, digital camera. I'm the one that, oh, I'll go on vacation. Maybe I'll take a few pictures with my little camera. That was the extent of my photography. So I thought, well, I have no idea what I'm doing, how I'm supposed to do this, but I'll just start taking pictures. And that's what I did. But one thing that I always did was I left the flash on. And so I took pictures inside, outside, daylight, nighttime. And I'll never forget the first little orb that I got. I was absolutely thrilled. It was up in the corner of the room. It was very plain. It was almost gray. It didn't have much form. It was probably about the size of a baseball, or maybe a little lit smaller. But I was absolutely thrilled. I said, "Okay, great. I got an orb." So I thought this was going to be every so often event. So I started an album and I said, "Okay, I'll print these up." I still had no clue, Sandy, how is this supposed to help anybody, you know?
Mm.
And so, but I kept at it and I kept at it and I was religious every day, every night. And then the orbs started getting bigger. They started getting like a pattern inside of them. And then the colors started happening. They started increasing in size. And I was getting so many every night that I said, okay, I'm not doing the album anymore. I'll just keep it on my camera. But so that's what I did. It was amazing as I did this, I always said, okay, I do this work for the highest good. And I ask that this be from the highest good. And that way I'm protected, not protected, but that way, that what you're seeing, you're meant to see. And because like I said, I'm inviting spirit and spirit's pretty big. So when I started getting the colors and they started with concentric circles inside, and then they started moving, and I would capture them. I went, wow, this is really interesting. But I still had no idea how this was supposed to help people. But I would put them on my website, my Facebook page. I said, okay, I'm supposed to put these out here, and then people started writing me and telling me about their orbs. And so then I started, okay, I have to be true to these orbs because this was 10 years ago. This was a pretty new phenomena. And, everybody and their sister was thinking they got orbs because of the digital camera and the types of cameras that we were using. And, people ask me, why are orbs here? Why do we see orbs now? And I said, because we can, because we're ready to, and we have the technology. But in that same vein, if you will, that technology will also pick up things that are not orbs. So I tell people, and there's a thing on my website, what are real orbs? What I call false orbs? And so, dust, rain, snow, fog, you don't want to take pictures then, because it looks like an orb, but it's not. And the orbs are special. When you take a picture of the orbs, it'll only be like in one picture. I always compare the picture before, during, and after. They're fleeting. But what really cemented my idea, or my belief, excuse me, I should say, in the orbs is I have seen them with my eyes, my own eyes, a handful of times. Most of the time I have to depend on my camera. But there are people who see orbs all the time. A lot of people who come back from near-death experiences have their gifts open, and so they see them. So even without the camera, the orbs are there. So even with all this, and then the orbs started changing. Same photographer, same camera, same settings, but then the orbs themselves started to change. I have probably 5 or 6 different types on my website, I named them. So there's some that I call the crown jewels, some that I call the strata, some that I call the spotlight orbs. And but inside, then they started to change. And the first time I saw a face, I was astounded. Now, when it first happened, I could see the orb because I had learned to look at them with what I call spirit vision. And I could look at the orb, relax my eyes, and the vision or the picture of the face would jump out at me. When I first started doing this work and taking pictures of clients, I could see their loved one in the orb. I would describe them, but when I showed them the orb, they couldn't see it. Well, that kept evolving. And now many of the faces that appear, almost all my clients can see them because they look like sketches. It's amazing. So when Robbie said, Mom, you're going to prove that there's life after life. When you get a reading with a medium and you sit there and it's wonderful, she or he will tell you, oh, I see your loved one and he's standing next to you or she's standing next to you. And I see that he had a goatee, or I see that she wore glasses, or I see that she liked pearls, or I see that he liked a cowboy hat, but you can't see it. You have to take the medium's word for that, right? What I do is I show you, because just as I described with the cowboy hat, the goatee, the glasses, the pearls, that's some of how they have appeared in the orbs. And when I show it to my sitters or my clients, then they go, oh my gosh, they're right there. And so what does that do? Number one, it proves that they continue, that they're still very much a part of their life, and that they hear them. Because then what I will do is I'll look at that, I'll connect with that spirit, and then I'll give them a reading on that particular person. It has been such an evolution.
Just go back a bit, because
Yeah.
you mentioned the first time. What did you see? Who did you see? And what was Robbie saying to you as you were going through this kind of transition with the orbs?
Well, it was kind of a two-prong approach, okay, if you will. One, I always did the orbs. I always said my prayer. It's like I had an appointed time with spirit. So I cultivated that. But at the same time, I was educating myself. I was reading. I was doing workshops. I wanted to hear from Robbie myself. That was my ultimate goal. I want to talk to my son myself. I'm still not very good at that, but I do get messages from him. But so I was doing that, and as I learned, as I experienced, as I trusted myself and my gifts in the workshops and the experiences and read all the books, I trusted the orbs. And there were two in the very beginning, if I may tell you about that. Robbie told me, Mom, I'll never let you down through a medium. If you're there to take pictures of the orbs, we'll be with you. I will bring you the orbs. So my very first demonstration was with like 8 ladies, lovely ladies. And driving out there, I'm going, oh my gosh, what if I get out there and there aren't any orbs? Because I would be so embarrassed. I would feel bad for them because they are looking forward to connecting with their loved ones. But what I had to do was trust, and Robbie's words rattled in my head all the way out there. I'll never let you down, Mom. I'll never let you down. And so I went there and I said, okay, we're going to do our orb pictures. And I took pictures. And the very first lady that I took a picture of, I could see an orb above her head. And now I'm seeing this and I go, okay, Nance, trust what you're seeing. Don't hold back. So I said, okay, I have a woman in spirit. She has shorter hair. It's kind of curly. She's wearing glasses. She has a long neck, but she has these pearls on. And the lady she was probably in her late 60s. So her mom had been gone for quite a while. And she burst into tears and she said, "That's my mom." And I went, "Oh my gosh, this is real. This this is connecting the two and letting." Now her mom has always been by her side, right? Always. That's what spirit does. But this let her know, it proved that even though her mom was in spirit, she was still very much a part of her life. And I just went, wow. I got so excited, so happy. I cried. I mean, I went, now I get it. Now I see how this work can help people. And one of the second ones, well, kind of a random one, was I was at a wedding and it was one of Robbie's friends. And a friend came up to me and they said, "Nance, can you take so-and-so's picture? He just lost his brother." And I went, "Here now?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." So I took him outside. I knew nothing about this young man. And I took him outside and I took his picture and there was a face in the orb. Now, it's so weird because you don't know where people are spiritually, right? But spirit has told me, give what you get. Just trust they will be able to receive it. Trust that what we're giving you is meant for them. So I said, okay. So I could, now this young man, he was bald, totally bald. And he was in his probably early 30s, but he had lost all his hair already. So I'm looking at this picture, and now I already had known that his brother was in spirit. That's what they told me. So I see this young man in spirit, and he told me he was in a wheelchair, but he had dreadlocks. I could see.
You how?
It's like a claircognizance. Or clairaudience. It's when you hear it in your mind. And so I'm looking at these dreadlocks, this huge head of hair, and I'm looking at his brother and I'm going, these aren't brothers. But then I said, trust. And so then I tuned into him and I described him. And of course, his brother who was with me, just you could see the tears streaming down his cheeks. His brother had an accident, ended in a wheelchair, paralyzed. And this brother who was sitting across from me was his caretaker until he passed, and his brother thanked him. And he told him it wasn't his fault. That one sentence changed his life.
You heard this.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a question for you, but we're going to go to the break first.
Okay.
I'll ask it when we return.
All right.
You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, and my guest today is orb photographer and medium, host of the Spheres of Spirit show on Times Media's TV network, and author Nancy Myers. And we're talking about how sometimes the biggest tragedies in our lives can turn out to be the biggest catalysts for our personal growth and spiritual evolution. We'll be back with more from Nancy Myers after the break.
Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, and Times Magazine complicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Nancy Myers, my question to you. You said that you went to see these 8 ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Had you seen many faces in orbs before? I mean, what gave you the idea that you could read orbs for other people?
That's a great question. I don't know. It was a part of the evolution of the work. You know, I kept taking pictures, and when that first face showed up and I connected with the spirit. Now I had been doing readings, you know, in the workshops and stuff. So I had been developing my mediumship skills, but I hadn't been doing it with the orbs. I got a reading from a very well-known medium, and she told me, she said, "Nancy, you are going to start reading the orbs. Robbie said, Mom, spend more time looking at these." Because I'd look at them and then, you know, just, oh, that's good, that's good, that's good. And he said, whoa, slow down. And so when I said, okay, I'm going to look at the orbs, I'm going to read them. And what made it the connection better was I could see the spirit I was connecting with. And, you know, even there was another lady at that same very first event. It was quite memorable for me. And I took a picture and I saw a man, and I clearly could see that he had been a police officer. I could see the big round hat with the brim, and I described him, and she could see him. And she said, "Come here, I want to show you something." And she took me, and on her fridge on a magnet was the picture of him exactly as he appeared in the orb. So they will appear as we remember, or as if we have a photograph of them. So my brother did that. I had a brother who was 13, and he passed, and he appeared in an orb as the last picture that was ever taken of him and of what I have. And that's how I remember him. So that's how he appeared. So, but the connection then, you know, I think with my work with the mediumship and the workshops and trying to develop that trusting. And then once I saw that face, you know, then I go, oh my gosh, I'm feeling them. I'm hearing them. And so in the beginning, it was kind of pictures and kind of sporadic messages, you know, short 1-sentence messages. But then that continued to evolve also.
So, you know, lots of people, as you said, you know, do take orbs and swap orbs and have, you know, orb discussions, etc. Are you the only person that is seeing faces, people?
You know, it's so incredible to me, Sandy. We all come in with gifts, right? It's just like, I know, I'll use mediums as an example. I'm a bit of a medium junkie. I love to get readings, so I've gone to some of the best. But even within the mediumship circles, they each have their own gifts. Like there's mediums who connect mainly with children. There's mediums that connect maybe with the angelic realm. There's mediums that channel, you know, which is a whole nother discussion. But they each have their niche. So I would visit and look at people's orb photos, and I'm going, I don't know anybody else that's getting these faces. Now, every once in a while I would see one, but mine were happening all the time. So, you know, it was quite amazing. So to answer your question, not as much and as clearly as I get it. I even get faces of celebrities and famous people, not just from the recent past, but from the ancient past. And they will appear as either a well-known painting or a sculpture, and then, of course, what I tell people, spirit is not willy-nilly. They make use of everything. So when I take a picture of an orb, I pay attention to the color. I pay attention to where does that orb appear in the photo? When does it appear? So all those are messages.
So what can the ancient beings that show up in orbs have to impart?
They're still teaching. For instance, I was taking a picture, oh gosh, maybe a couple months ago, and I looked at the orbit, and it was Socrates. I could see him. I knew it was him. In fact, it's on my website. But I thought, "Okay, why are you coming in?" So then I sit with it for a minute, and and then I will go and research either famous quotes or about this person, and something literally will jump off the page at me and saying, "Say this. Put this with the orb." Okay. So I can't remember Socrates' message, but yeah, it was about, the times and the changes and your beliefs and stuff. But it was so powerful. If I can, I'll tell one quick
Make
story.
it quick because we've got a lot to get through.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Okay, if we have time at the end, you can tell the story.
Okay.
Because what I want to talk about now is the fact that, beyond that, you started to discover that you did have gifts and you worked at, improving those gifts. But it led you on many, many journeys. I mean, you wrote a book about your story, about Robbie's death and the orbs. You wrote a second book about all of the different places you'd gone to in the world that you never would have gone to before. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the first book, my son, through a medium, she said, "Oh, you have to write a book." And I said, "No, I'm not an author." But Robbie worked with me on that book. I put a lot into that book, but I didn't say everything. I'm not ready to share everything that has happened to me. Well, then he started hounding me again. "Okay, we're going to write another book, and Mom, you're going to put everything in that book. Don't leave anything on the table," is what he said. So I have traveled, and Robbie has gone with me. Robbie would come into readings, and the medium, just this last trip, she would say, "Oh, you're going to Peru." And I go, "No, I'm not." And she said, "Yeah, Robbie said you're going to Peru." Okay. So not knowing anything, and that's this trip fell in my lap. It was the trip of course, of a lifetime, and I went, and it was magical. And I go to these ancient sites, the sacred temples, the ancient temples, all over the world. I've been to Italy and France and Egypt and Malta and Bosnia and Scotland, and I'm going to England in September. But then I get there and I take these amazing photos of the orbs and the beings, because sometimes beings will show up in my photography. And but also just being in that, sitting in that that even though they are ruins, we always sit in the energy, and images and pictures will be dropped in, or experiences or past lives, or it's just been an amazing journey. Yes, before Robbie passed, you had asked me how had my life changed. I mean, I think I had been to Canada and Mexico, from California. That was the two places I ventured. I'd never thought that I would be traveling worldwide. So that has been a plus. The other thing is, how has my life changed? The fear of death is just about gone, because Robbie has told me exactly, "Here's what's going on this side. Here's how you will experience it. Here's who's going to be waiting for you." And then the people, when we start this work, sometimes people will fall away because you're not resonating anymore, and you've come in and out of each other's lives, and that lesson's done. So you make way for the new people. And right now I have the most amazing friends in my life because of this work. So, you said the silver lining, and those are some of the silver linings. The world travel, the fear of death, and the amazing people that are in my life.
So going to all of these places that Robbie is sending you to, what is the purpose of going? Is it just for you to capture more orbs, to pick up information, to, your own growth?
All of the above, because that's what I experience. When I was in Malta, and I write about this in my second book, I had amazing dreams and visitations. And so it was for my growth. In Bosnia, when I was there, um, Bosnia is discovered these huge pyramids, and you can research it. But and then there's tunnels underneath, and so we were sitting in the tunnels underneath, and we were doing this meditation, and all of a sudden I felt like I don't know where I am, and I'm floating, like not in water, but I was supported and floated. So anyway, I go into great detail in my book. When I come back and the meditation's done, this young lady who's sitting next to me, she looks at me with almost terror in her eyes. And she said, "Where did you go?" And I said, "What do you mean, where did I go? I've been sitting here the whole time." She said, "No, I reached over for you and you weren't there." And I went, wow. So these experiences, these messages, these orbs are given to me so that I can share. Spirit wants me to share, to help people realize what's out there, what's available, what they can do. And so they do this to me to give me firsthand knowledge. But then, and that was one of the reasons Robbie said, "Mom, don't leave anything behind." Because what that was, it was telling us, it kind of goes into the sacred geometry and the Merkaba and the astral traveling. And that's one of the reasons you talk about my show, the spheres of spirit. Robbie gave me that name because he goes, "Mom, we're going to talk about all the aspects of spirit." So I think that's why he has sent me to all these places. It's to share and to say, you know what, this is for everybody, not just people who have special gifts. Everybody can do this.
And along the way, you've also started channeling.
Yes.
So
That was
tell us a little bit about that.
That was unexpected. I have to tell you that. Probably about 3 or 4 years after Robbie passed, I went for a spiritual and energy healing with this amazing person, and she herself was a channel, and she had posted on Facebook. Just amazing messages. So anyway, she was working on me, and she said, "What happened to you at 9 years old?" And I said, "Well, that's when I lost my brother. That was my first experience with death." And she said, "It's so wonderful to meet another channel." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "A lot of times people are awakened, that's the age at 9, through some kind of tragedy." She said, "You are a channel. That's what that experience awakened in you." And I said, "No, I'm not a channel." you know? So I parked that. It was years after, probably 5 or 6 years, that I thought, "Okay, well, let me see what I can do with this." So I signed up with a class with a very good teacher and tutor. And it was an online class. And so where I'm doing all the exercises, and I got nothing. I got nothing. I'm not a channel. And so it was the last meditation on the very last day, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I felt an entity, a being near me. And in comes this message. And the first message was about baseball. And I'm going, okay. And it was analogy about you control the speed of your journey by which pitch you throw. And I went, and then it went on from there. And I went, oh my gosh. Well, I had been introduced to my higher self, higher guide, and I knew her name. Her name is Leonini, which means little lion. And I knew that was her giving me the message. So the teacher stressed to us, once you do this, then sit, invite them in and get the messages. So I started working on that. Everything's a process. Everything takes time. And so I started getting the messages, but first she would let me know that she was here because my face would feel as if I was walking through cobwebs. And then I go, okay, I know it. So then how she works with me is she shows me a picture, an image of something, like, let's say, a screen door. And I'm going, okay, where are we going with this? And then she would deliver the message. And like, for instance, with the screen door, it's like, you think you see clearly, but you don't. You need to open that screen door to the spiritual dimension, and then you'll know what true vision is. That was kind of her message. So she uses everyday objects, everyday things, to bring in these really important messages. So I sit now and I record it. I've probably gotten over 150 messages, and I did put them in a book because they're very inspiring, very simple, but very inspiring. She keeps it real, and that's what I like about her. They're like paragraph long messages.
So, psychic, medium, channel, orb photographer. Where are you heading next?
I don't know. Here's kind of where this is heading, and this is kind of, not too many people know this. I sit in circle
I
every
won't tell anyone.
Okay, yeah, we won't tell anyone. I'm coming out of the channel closet here. I sit in circle every Wednesday night with 3 other amazing mediums and channels, and we have set the intent that we are going to channel. And that's what we do. And some of the beings and some of the angels and people that we have channeled has been amazing. But for me, I'm channeling people, famous people, like I have channeled Ben Franklin, C.S. Lewis, Arthur Conan Doyle. I can't remember everybody. Oh, Amelia Earhart. And their messages are, it's when I read the messages, because you kind of go into a trance, a semi-trance when you're channeling. So you're not always aware of everything that you say. And then I read their messages, I type it up and I read it and I go, I don't talk like that. I know that didn't come from me, and I'm not that smart or profound. And so they use their experience. You ask, why would they come back? Because if they were teachers, if they were helpers, if they learned, if they were not enlightened, but advanced souls, they're still trying to help humanity. And so they come in with these messages, and it's just been incredible. So one day I'll put all those together in a book. And what's funny is I always ask them, tell me something that I don't know about, if it's somebody famous. And they'll tell me, but I'm also getting people I didn't even know existed. I got this man, he said, I'm the hot dog man. And I'm going, what's the hot dog man? He was the man who invented the hot dogs for the baseball games. And then he told me all about his life. And then I will go and research, and probably 85% of what I get, I find out is true. I'm not 100%, but about 85% is true.
What words of wisdom did the hot dog man have to impart?
A lot of times, what he's saying, or what they're saying, is they talk about, now this guy was extremely successful. He started out with a simple idea, trusted that he was supposed to do this, and his business, he's even in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he was like a dad to Babe Ruth, who he told me, he goes, I was close to Babe Ruth. I had never heard of this man, so how did I know he was close to Babe Ruth? And so he's telling our group, trust, you're supposed to do this work. You're supposed to trust the process because you will reap the rewards. That's kind of the basic message of most people. I channeled another gentleman. He was the balloonist for Barnum and Bailey Circus. I knew nothing about this man. He told me all this stuff, and then he came in with this beautiful message. And when I looked him up, I went, oh my gosh, this guy's real. That's when you know it didn't come from you, it comes to you.
Yeah. So who's come in that surprised you the most? What personality?
Oh gosh. The one that I was surprised the most was Benjamin Franklin. And when I first got him, he has quite a sense of humor. He showed me an image of that potbelly stove. I believe it's called the Ben Franklin stove. And he showed me that image, and he's pointing to it and he goes, they named that after me. What do you think about that? But then the first time he came in, he rolled out what appeared to be a parchment paper, and he rolled it out, and it was the Declaration of Independence. And as I saw the words on this parchment, he crossed them out and changed them to fit a spiritual declaration. It was fascinating. I'm not going to give that away yet, though.
Wow, it sounds like something we need right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me how, I mean, for somebody who, thought of herself as ordinary and in a box, I mean, now you're hosting your own show,
Mhm.
you can't get much more public than that. So
Right.
tell us about your show.
Yeah.
What is the theme of your show?
It's interesting that you said you can't get more public than that. I'm just going to tell people, when you walk this spiritual path, you do set yourself up for criticism. And one thing that my son told me is, Mom, never defend what you do, because if you defend it, that sets you up then for confrontation. So I tell people in all my work, in my books, in my channeling, in my show, I'm going to tell you what I know, what has happened to me, what I've learned, what I've photographed. If that doesn't resonate with you, then leave that behind. Take what fits. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm here to maybe get them started thinking in a little different direction, because that's the first step of spirituality. So during a meditation, well, first a medium told me a year and a half ago, "You're going to do a podcast. Robbie says you need to do a podcast." I'm going, Robbie, he loves giving me these assignments, right? I think he thinks it's funny that, he's now the parent and I'm kind of the student. And I said, I'm not doing a podcast. I don't know the first thing about podcasts. I haven't even listened to a podcast. So, me being the dutiful student, I looked into it a little bit and I went, this is over my head. There's no way. I can't do this. Well, as you very well know, the right show, the right person landed in my lap. And it's like, and this person said, okay, I can take care of this. I can set you up. This is what we need to do. And I said, okay, I guess I'm doing a podcast. So I sat in meditation and I said, Robbie, yeah, I need some help here. And I said, I don't even know what to call it. And he goes, oh, I have a name. And all of a sudden he said, the spheres of spirit, Mom, call it the spheres of spirit. I go, well, that's not easy to say for one thing, but okay. So it's two things. It's spheres, which are the orbs of spirit. But like I said earlier, it's also all the different aspects that need to be discussed about spirituality. And one of my future shows, I'm even going to talk about, okay, you're on the spiritual path. How does it change you physically? Because it has me. I'm different physically. I'm different mentally. I'm different emotionally. And I think we need to talk about that a little bit more. But when I first started, I thought, okay, well, mediumship's over there. Those that talk to angels are over there. Those that channel are over there. Those that maybe talk with extraterrestrials are over there. No, it's all connected. It's all a part. And there may be people that specialize in those areas, but that's not the only connection, that one area. They all bump up against each other. They're all part of the whole. So that's kind of what Robbie wants me to talk about. So I literally sit, before I plan a show, and he'll drop ideas in my head. And then sometimes I tell him too, when I'm doing a show, you better be with me. And all of a sudden I'll say something and I go, wow, where did that come from? Well, he just stepped in and, made me say that. So I thank him, because, it's helps tremendously to have um, help from the other side. And I trust that. And, and, and being on a spiritual path, Sandy, you said, where is this going? I don't know, but I am so open to it. I wake up every day and I go, okay, Spirit, what are we doing today? And I'm always experiencing something new, learning something new. Even the orbs change. I had a medium tell me, Nancy, you're going to have people literally start stepping out of your orbs and you're going to see full apparitions. And that's starting to happen. So the orbs aren't done. Spirit tells me, and Leonini has told me, this is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. We're giving you this information in dribs and drabs. You guys think you're so advanced spiritually. You have no idea what is under the water. So keep going. We have magic to show you.
So give me an example of how you have changed physically.
My diet. I can no longer tolerate or eat any kind of red meat. I had to give up beef, pork, lamb, bacon, because it literally makes me sick. These are things that I didn't set out. These are things that happen organically. I had to change all my makeup. Well, I used the same makeup for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, my whole face just puffed up. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm allergic to the makeup I've always used. So I had to get like a hyperallergenic makeup. The other thing, and this one was tough to swallow, I couldn't drink anymore. And I enjoyed my 2 cocktails. I enjoyed my vodka cranberry. But Spirit said, no, it literally made me sick. And then the big one that my husband had to get used to is I became allergic to hair dye. And I couldn't dye my hair anymore. So that's why I have silver hair. But I kind of like it.
That's your silver lining.
Yeah, there you go. Literally, right? That's perfect. But all those things happened organically. I did not set them out, but you feel it. Why did they happen to me? Because Spirit wants me, if I'm going to do this work, we have to be able to connect with their vibration, which is much faster than ours. So we have to be, the purer we are, the higher our vibration, the easier it is to connect.
Mm. And what does your husband say about all of this? I mean, you said, he was on board. Robbie made sure of that. But I can imagine that he didn't foresee all of this.
No, well, neither one of us did. It's just he's coming along. He's on his own path. But what is important to me is he supports me. He knows how much I believe in this, how important it is for this work. He even built me my she shed, which I call my spirit shack, and that's where I do my readings. And it's my space. And he built me this beautiful thing in the backyard.
Nancy, we're actually out of time now.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
zoomed by.
Yeah. 5 minutes ago or 2 minutes ago, I looked and we had 5 minutes. Now we haven't. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. But tell us where people can see your orbs, the name of your website.
Oh, sure. It's just called theorbconnection.com. And I also have a Facebook page called The Orb Connection.
And your show is right here on Times Media's network.
Thursdays, second and fourth Thursdays of every month. Yep.
Great. Nancy, this is an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Sandy. It was a pleasure.
For more information about Nancy Myers, orb mediumship and photography services, her live streaming show, and her books, Entering the Light Fantastic and Encircled by the Light Fantastic, visit her website, theorbconnection.com, where you can also download free excerpts from both books. So that's it for this week. I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer. I'll be back with another edition of What is Going On at the same time next Thursday. Till then, it's goodbye from me.